Hello, welcome to almost the last week of our class. This is a little bit different week because of the 4th of July. So as you see, all the three assignments due are going to be for Sunday and not Thursday as usual, to give you a little bit more extra time with the holiday. So this week we're moving from communication and different types of communication to mediated communication and basically media. So as you scroll down, we're going to week 7. Yes, only 4 more assignments. So next week there are going to be only 1 more assignment. We're going to click here and we're going to look at those 3 assignments shortly. And before that, I'm going to go over a little bit some theory about mediated communication. So as we look at media, there's a lot of understanding, as you see in those 2 cartoons, that the media influence and affect our system belief of different types. It can be violence, it can be nutrition, it can be body image. And this theory started in the 70s called cultivation theory, that basically what we see in the media cultivate our belief system. But is it really true? Do we agree with that everything that is on TV make us what we are? So after the Columbine shooting, it was reported that the 2 students who were shooting their friends there were watching Pulp Fiction. But those were 2 out of millions of viewers who watch Pulp Fiction. So does Pulp Fiction, video games, or other violent media content create violence? And is every image of body in the media relates to your own body image? So you can learn about the cultivation theory and look at it. It's very interesting, and it's related in our class, in our work, into what you think that the media thinks about your profession. And if you remember, there is like a representation that I ask, and that's part of the cultivation theory. Do you think that Mad Men or Sex in the City or other different representation are really implementing the way that you see your profession? So that's one thing. The other one that I wanted to talk about is agenda setting, framing, and priming. So to look at another theory that says that the media, there is the reality, there is some gatekeepers, and then there is the media agenda that creates something, then it creates a public agenda that creates the perception of reality with the reality itself, and the policy agenda that works like back to the media representation of it. So some examples, I don't know if you remember, when one of the 2 Boston Marathon bombers was on the cover of the Rolling Stone, there was outrage of why are you making him a pop star when he is a killer? And that's part of taking something that is real, that there is the bomber here that was caught and put on trial, but also there's the representation of the Rolling Stone putting him on their cover and talking about him as if he was a rock star. So that's agenda setting, what kind of things that the media is putting up front for us to discuss. Then framing. So there is this great example. This is a photographer who's showing, it looks great on Instagram, but if you look at the bigger frame that was cropped off, it looks a little bit different. So framing is always what you put in the frame and what you leave out. One of the examples is here. You see, this is the picture, but you can see what Al Jazeera was showing, and you can see what CNN was showing, and you can see the difference of the message, like a soldier is giving water to a soldier from another, like the enemy, versus here, the soldier is intimidating like the enemy, when the reality was that they were giving him like water, but under threat. So you can see the different manipulation of if you frame it differently or crop the image differently. Another example here. The Person of the Year of Time magazine was just a representative of the women who were part of the Me Too campaign. Now, as you see, on purpose, they left here an arm, like, and somebody outside of the frame to kind of show there were a lot of others. It's not just those five that share their story, and they're part of being the person of the year. Another way of looking at it, I don't know if you heard about this controversy about the Star Wars movie, that this is the American poster and this is the Chinese poster. Can you see the difference? If you look really, really closely, yes, you have here Kylo Ren, you have Rey, you have Han Solo, you have General Leia, which everybody's here, right? But who's missing? Interesting, right? So they cropped Finn's out of the frame here for the Chinese public, which again raised a lot of awareness for racism in the Chinese advertisement. So the last thing is priming, which is what actually you remember. So you see something, or you hear the word rabbit, then it activates something in your memory, and then next time that you hear that, it's like, ooh, okay, that's how it looks like. So you see there's like 3 different events here that I took. I don't know if you remember Melissa Click, who was recorded yelling at a reporter in Mizzou, University of Missouri, and saying, kick him out of here, can I have some muscle? And that was what people remember. But actually, she was part of a demonstration of raising voices for minority and black students in the university, and the students was coming and was harassing the students, so she was asking him to leave. But since she was recorded, so she was denied tenure and was kicked out of the university, because that's what people remember, not the whole story, but just she threatening the student who was actually by trespassing this demonstration. Here, Emma Gonzalez in the March of Our Lives, if you remember, she had 6 minutes of silence, and that's the time that it took for the shooter to kill her friends in Parkland. So it was a very strong speech, but what people remembered was, why did she had the Cuban flag, which is part of her heritage with a lot of other stuff on her jacket, but people remembered this as saying, oh, she's not American. And she was saying proudly that this is part of her heritage, doesn't make her less American. And it was interesting to look at the different ways that the media was showing it. And the last one is the Dove commercial. I don't know if you've seen this one that starts with this girl that takes off her shirt, and then when she takes it off, suddenly you see this girl, and then she takes off her shirt, and then this girl, and it goes as a loop. So she's taking off her shirt, and then this, and goes back. But what happened was that people were looking at, oh, there's a black girl who's taking off her shirt, and then there's a white girl beneath her. And there was a lot of controversy about Dove commercial. And again, Dove is using those controversial topics to use for you to remember, oh, there was a controversy, but Dove. So Dove is remembered. So as advertising, priming is a very important part of it that the media does. So just to summarize, we have cultivation theory about how the media cultivate our belief system. We have agenda setting, what the media put as agenda. We have the framing that media can frame in different ways. And then there is the priming, what do you remember? Now, as we know, media is very general, and media is plural for different mediated communication outlet. So let's look at Time magazine. The cover that was just here was taken from this photo. And you see there is Trump and Welcome to America, which obviously he never saw her. And she actually was not separated from her parents, which is interesting. And another thing, you have also Melania Trump visiting with the I don't really care, do you? That was a big outrage about why did she use that jacket. And there was the soundbite. If you click here, you'll see the report with the soundbite of NBC that really made the difference and change in less than a week on the immigration policy of separating kids from their parents. So the agenda setting was to put that up front, and it made change a lot of the policies, because as we're thinking priming, this little girl was showing us that's what we remembered about the separation or the jacket of the first lady. So that worked against the government and made change to policy that the government wanted to implement but didn't really, was not able to do. And the last thing of theory before we go to the homework is looking at the use of nonviolent communication as part of the media. So those of you who looked at the video last week, you saw the 6 steps for nonviolent social change. And the way it works, I'm not gonna do a history lesson here very quickly. There is 6 steps that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Wrote about as he was looking at his own social right movement. So the first one is to gather information. So Rosa Parks didn't stay on her seat just one day because she wanted to that day specifically. That was a lot of work on information gathering to see how and what and decide how. She knew she would be arrested. That was a planned event, but she needed to gather information with also friends who helped her to know how it will have the biggest impact. So information gathering is the first step to know what you're doing. Then you need to educate. When you see here, this is where they were training what's going to happen in the sittings that you're going to see later on, but they were showing how it works, who is the supporter, how you need to think about like the other people, how they're going to be treated. There was a lot of seminars and education to know before doing any action. Obviously, you need personal commitment. Are you ready to go on the sitting and be ridiculed, mocked, and even be brutally beaten by being there? So that's a huge personal commitment that they were asking all the members to be ready for if they would do something. Then, first of all, negotiation before action. And you can see here with President Johnson that there were different negotiations, but it didn't always work. And then it goes to a direct action. So a lot of demonstration, but also the sittings and boycotting buses. There were different action for different causes, depending, here it's for the voting rights, but depending which rights and what, there was a direct action to do a change. And then it should bring eventually to conciliation. So here you see President Johnson eventually signing on the Social Rights Act and giving the pen to Martin Luther King and say also, we shall overcome in order to what Martin Luther King called create a beloved community. So why am I going through all of that? I want you to look at the hashtag exercise. So if we go to that exercise, we're going to see that what you need to do is to look at those 6 stages. You need to choose a hashtag. I would prefer you not to use those, but if you really don't have any options, so you can use those. But think about some kind of a social movement that you know. Dress like a woman, the Ice Bucket Challenge, Never Again, Bring Back Our Girls, Why I Stayed, Me Too, Am I Next, Love Wins. There's a lot of, and you can see others. And then what I want you to do is to go back to those stages and see, where is this movement? Is it in information gathering, or it's in education, personal commitment, discussion, negotiation, direct action, reconciliation? So where is it? So Me Too, for example, is basically in the direct action. It gathered information, started with Harvey Weinstein and other people, then started to educate other people, and there was personal commitment of the people to say me too and to be exposed. They was trying to negotiate with people to step down. Once they didn't, there was starting to be articles, and that's where we are now. Reconciliation, I haven't seen that yet with the Me Too movement, for example. So that's how you would like analyze it, and you need to find an article and cite it, one article, to show how is it, and to support your claim that you will write with 250 words or one single space half page, or a 2-minute podcast, whatever you would prefer to do. So that's the assignment. I'm going to look at how you identify where the movement is, your analysis of nonviolent step, and what do you think the future steps should be. So that's how you're going to be graded for that assignment. Then the second assignment is the screencast of your presentation. So for this one, you have submitted already and got feedback from me about your presentation. Remember, it needs to be 20 slides for 20 seconds exactly. So this is a little bit tricky because this is a pachakacha presentation, and if you don't know how a pachakacha works, you can look here and click on that link and you'll get to how pachakacha. There is around the world a lot of those type, but basically this is the type of presentation that is 20 slides for 20 seconds. So you'll need to record yourself. Those who are doing it in pairs, maybe you'll need to edit, but make sure, because it needs to be exactly 6 minutes and 40 seconds. So your podcast needs to be exactly that. And if it doesn't follow, you won't get full points for it. So make sure that there's more visuals than text and that you talk for 20 seconds each slide, and then the slides should change by itself. If you're using the PowerPoint, it can automatically change. Google Slides doesn't, so you'll need to time yourself to change it every 20 seconds. And then the last one is our last reading for this week, and that's going to be about the network society. So you have this video or this article, if you prefer the article, question for each one of those, and you know the drill already. So this is going to be our last reading for the class. So if you have any question or anything that you want to ask, to comment, remember that everything is due on Sunday this time because of the 4th of July. So you have until then. And please also by July 8th, send me your revised paper, because everybody got feedback for their final paper. And if you want to get the full grade after your revision, Sunday, July 8th will be the last day to do that. So hope you had a happy 4th of July, and looking forward to reading all your assignment.